Thank you very much. Yeah, it's my privilege to welcome you all to Brighton. I'm sure you'll love it. And I know what you're thinking. We have had sunshine before, so it is possible we'll see some sunshine, but that's obviously beyond my remit as the chair of the Trades Council down here. So, of course, I was thinking about what to say, but of course the main thing is obviously the difference between where we are now and where we were last year. Because last year we were bemoaning an increasingly erratic and unhinged Conservative government, and we've just got an incoming Labour one. So the whole idea was we were looking forward to this sort of new epoch, this new age. It was going to be like 1997, which some of us vaguely remember, some of us probably don't. So, you know, moving away from the lobbying scandals, the conflicts of interest, the cronyism, the scapegoating, the austerity, and putting forward ethical foreign policy, socialist principles, rights for working people, all of which we've in this room been fighting for in various ways for many, many years. So, of course, there's been this big thing about tough decisions, hasn't there? We've even had Liz Kendall talking about no option of a life on benefits under Labour, which for those who are sick or otherwise unable to work will surely not be words they were expecting or wanting to hear. Pensions also falls within her remit, so I'm just wondering whether she considers pensions to be a benefit that people should not have a life on either. But anyway, I think the tough decisions is a very risky strategy because it seems increasingly populist and pro-austerity. Of course, we have along the way of the general election campaign, we have had promise of the repeal of the 2016 anti-trade union rights. Hasn't happened yet. Of course, Unison are carrying out a national ballot now. We heard about the 5% for some public sector workers. If you work in local government or you're a teaching assistant, you're being offered something around 2.5%, which is another pay cut. So that's why Unison are balloting nationally, and they're having to do so under the 2016 anti-trade union laws, which is incredibly difficult and extremely expensive to send out all those things in the post to everybody. But we have had, so we live in hope that these will be repealed quickly, but you know, along the way we've also lost certain promises about removing charitable status for private schools, scrapping universal credit, increasing the tax burden for the highest earners, nationalisation of services, £28 billion Green New Deal. So I think we can understand there's a little bit of cynicism when we hear about promises about what's going to happen some point down the line. And that's of course where we need to step up, because we need to consider ourselves to be the moral compass of our movement, dragging the government and dragging the ministers into doing what needs to be done for the good of working people up and down the country. But of course, you know, it can't end with just the 2016 trade union laws. We certainly can't go back to a sort of David Cameron pre-2016 sort of austerity and all those sorts of things. We need to be pushing a lot further than that. There's a real issue here about the general election itself. Turnout dropped significantly from 67% down to 60%, which is a huge issue. It's the second lowest it's been since 1918. So I think that tells us there's a lack of faith in the political system and the political parties. Sir Keir's own constituency turnout fell to 54.5%, despite him being the leader of the opposition, coming in on a landslide. And Labour got into government with just 33.7% of the votes, with a massive landslide, down from 41% in 2017. I'm not just going to keep reading statistics at you, but there's a real issue here. People are turning away from politics, they're turning away from voting, they're turning away from these things. So instead of talking about these tough decisions, which only seem to be tough for people who are already suffering under austerity, there will need to be a lot of radical decisions and bold decisions requiring the rich to pay their share. We need green energy. We need a complete revamp of industry and manufacturing, NHS, house building. And the issue is, if this Labour government fluff it, or if they think pandering to the right and the far right and the worst of the libertarian sort of principles they hold, if they fluff that, we know what's going to happen, because we've seen it happen across Europe, we've seen it happen in the US. The far right will go in very quickly, and they'll turn people against one another, hoovering them up with lazy memes, racist slurs, fear and false promises. And this is happening now all across Europe. And that's when people look at the two main parties and they think, well, what's the difference between them? What options are there? They'll be looking at the press, and the press won't be pushing our agenda. They won't be pushing the trade unions or the left. Find me a billionaire who will. I'd love to see that. They're going to be pushing further and further to the right. So the stakes are very high. And we're in such a different position to the one we were in last year. We really need to be fighting harder than ever. And it's difficult because we've all been saying the same thing for many, many, many years. And it's easy to get bored of the sound of your own voice after a while. It can, can't it? But we need to commit to that. We need to continue doing what we're doing. We need to push for radicalism. And we need to push harder and harder for more and more radical answers to the issues that are bringing this country down. So, obviously, I'm not going to be the only person saying this over the week, but I just want to be one of the first to get in there and sort of make you all feel quite gloomy. But no, I don't like to end on gloom. I like to bring gloom. And then cheer you up at the end, but I think I've run out of time.